Sherry's on the phone. I just want to let you know.
Okay. Well, good morning. I'll call the meeting to order. First item of business is to approve the minutes. It says minutes in here. I don't think the minutes are from a little while ago. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. Objection approved. We'll move on to an update from the health district.
Councilor Sweeney, Matt Hart, Town Manager. Unfortunately, Ms. Kraus is having trouble connecting. She's working on that now, so maybe we could come back to her.
Yeah, why don't we come back? Why don't we move to I guess the vaccination support team is probably with her, right?
No, Helen, Ms. Rubino Turco can take the lead on that. I'll just kick it off briefly if you'd like.
Yeah, go for it.
So as we discussed at the council meeting earlier this week, I think our staff has done a very good job getting this up and running. It's been a combined effort between the health district and leisure and social services, the library, our fire department, and emergency management. We've got an info line in place, as well as a mobile vaccination clinic. And one of the first, if not the first, municipal governments to provide that service in the state. So through you, Councilor Sweeney, I would turn to Ms. Rubino Turco to do a short presentation on this, and I note that Ms. Kraus has joined us as well.
Amy, just so you know, we flipped B and C so you can settle in a little bit.
Good morning. This is Helen Rubino Turco, and thank you, Matt, for that overview. So a couple of weeks ago, we were asked to create kind of a hotline to help reach out to our community, as well as to have an opportunity for the community who needed help to reach out to us regarding the difficulty or the challenges that they might be having to create an appointment for vaccination. And so we, instead of reinventing the wheel, we turned to the library, which, as you know, in the early days of the pandemic, really became the grand central station of information for our community. And so we wanted to build on that. And so we created a vaccination support team that includes, obviously, the library, our senior centers, social services, the fire department, and I think that was our main group. And we pulled 2 people out of that had been laid off from the senior center staff to become well-versed in all of the issues that are related to creating a vaccination appointment. So as you know, for a lot of seniors, it was a challenge because the vaccination system that the state was using, called VAMS, the Vaccination Administration Management System, required an email address. And that's something that some seniors don't have, or they share an email address with their spouse. So it was a real challenge. You need to have a unique email address and be able to flip screens and work 2 screens at once and stuff. So it was pretty much a challenge. So we created, we did all of our research, and we've opened up an information line. It's really our opportunity to understand what the resident's problem and concern is, to provide answers and guidance and referrals where possible. So we have a team of kind of experts that the calls are funneled to, and also to either route them to the appropriate resource, or to collect enough information that we can get someone to call them back that can help them. And it's also to manage their expectations, really, regarding this vaccination process, which is going to take some time. Unfortunately, the health district has a plan to set up a system for themselves and a electronic medical record themselves, so that they can avoid this gap, this loop, if you will, this challenge of requiring an email address because they can do it without one. So that's a great system. We hope it's going to be online. Amy can update us, in March. But in the meantime, we're answering phone calls, and I just want to invite Carol to just talk about the kinds of calls that are coming in. As of close of business yesterday, we had 115 calls to our call center. So that's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We a total of 115 calls. And as I'm going through, there is maybe 4 or 5 that are still waiting for an answer in the system. So everybody else has received an answer. And Carol, I just wanted to have you chat just a little bit about the kinds of calls we're getting and how the team is handling it.
Of course, Helen. This is Carol Waxman, Interim Library Director. It's absolutely a privilege for us to participate in this project. The reference librarians are answering the phones, and as Helen said, there have been over 40 each day. The way that we look at it, the more people that are helped, the less that are in need. As soon as they hear our voice, they are so grateful. We tell them immediately, we're here to help, talk to us, tell us what the problem is. And every call is completely unique. For instance, I'm 60. I have these medical conditions. I don't have a computer. I have no family here. I don't know what to do. I'm desperate. Help me. I'm scared. And the first thing we do, of course, is to settle them down and talk to them and just be a friend. And then we find out exactly what the problems are. We log this into a log created by one of our staff members. We take all the information. If we can answer the question, if it's a ride or anything that's simple, we will do that and end the call at that point with a check mark to say that the call is completed and an action has been taken. But if it's much more complicated and involves setting up an email, we leave the call open because we know that the responders who are coming in from the senior center, the health district, social services, who will follow up, seeing that the call is not ended, will get back to them within 24 hours, take an action step, make sure that everything is complete. They will have an appointment. They will get a ride. A paramedic will come to their house to give them the vaccination at their house. They are done. They are happy. They are so relieved and so grateful.
So just to dovetail on that, if the call is a quick call, the library will handle it. They'll write it into a spreadsheet that we all share. It's in a Google Doc. And so that we can pick up then and see, oh, this person's been entered and they need a reply. The people that are answering those longer calls are spending 15 or 20 minutes, sometimes more, with each caller. So, but every single person is getting a call back. Every single person has been helped or is in the process of being helped at this time. Obviously, the new program that Amy can share a little bit more about is this how to address the needs of homebound. Homebound people can leave their house, but it's with difficulty and they need assistance. And so the fire department and the health department have worked together to create that special program for homebound. And I'll turn it over to Amy. I'm sure you want to hear an update on trends in our community, but also about that program from her.
Good morning. Amy Kraus, Director of Health for the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District. Thank you for having me this morning. So yes, some trends in West Hartford. We did have a peak back on December 8th. We had a total of 320 new cases. The thought behind that was due to probably the Thanksgiving holiday. And so what we were doing is we were watching that very closely with our contact tracing efforts. The next peak that we saw in West Hartford was around January 12th. We had an additional 224 new cases. So those were our latest 2 peaks that we did see in West Hartford. However, the trend has decreased. We are still receiving an average of between West Hartford and Bloomfield 20 new cases a day, but the numbers have decreased rapidly, which is a good thing. Our total number of people in West Hartford that have gotten tested for COVID-19 is a little over 100,000, which is a great effort. Between the health district and intercommunity health in the Elmwood Community Center, we offer testing every Tuesday from 9 to 4. They do the testing outside. So we did offer that in the Elmwood section of West Hartford. As far as the age groups, we are seeing an increase in positive cases for individuals aged 20 to 29. The next age group is age 50 to 59. The total number of deaths that West Hartford has had as a result of COVID-19 is 188, and that has affected individuals in the age range of 90 plus. So let me talk a little bit about our vaccine and our efforts. The health district does receive the Moderna vaccine. There has been evidence from clinical trials that it's 94.1% effective. We do not carry the Pfizer vaccine. The reason is because the health district does not have the temperature requirements, can't meet the temperature requirements for the Pfizer vaccine. So we are using the Moderna vaccine. We do have clinics on a regular basis. Our first shipment of the Moderna vaccine came December 23rd, and we scheduled our first clinic on December 24th. So we've been running clinics pretty much 3 to 4 times a week between Bloomfield and West Hartford. We currently have a clinic starting today. Very shortly, it's going to be our largest one at West Hartford at the town hall here at the auditorium. I'm looking about probably having a little bit over 350 people here today. That's a result of a clinic closure that we had on Tuesday because of the storm. So we've notified individuals that they can come to their scheduled time. We do use volunteers from the Town Hall, Board of Education, as well as community health workers. The health district participates in a grant with the City of Hartford through the Connecticut Health Foundation. So we do utilize some community health workers as well at our clinics. The health district does order a vaccine weekly, and so far we have not had to cancel clinics due to a lack of allocation. If we do cancel a clinic, it's due to the weather, and we notify individuals by email of the clinic cancellation. So what we noticed, obviously, with our 75 and above is that they were struggling. And so, as Helen had mentioned and Carol, we came together to figure out how we can quickly address the needs of our residents here in West Hartford. The AtRisk Community Health Program was developed. Yesterday was the first day. It was an exciting day for both the paramedics and our public health nurse, Melissa Marquis. We went to 10 individuals in West Hartford. Melissa screened those individuals, and they started at 9 a.m. and finished at 3 p.m. The reason we did 10 is because each vial contains 10 doses. We do not waste doses at the health district. We've never wasted doses. We always find someone that we can vaccinate. So with that being said, once we draw the vaccine out of the vial, Moderna has the requirement is that we have to use the vial within 6 hours. So this team of paramedics and our public health nurse moved fairly quickly. Because this is a new vaccine and it's under the emergency use authorization, we're required to monitor individuals for 15 to 30 minutes, depending on allergies or any complications. So we do factor in that time frame as well. And then obviously we give them time for breaks in between. But again, it went very, very smoothly yesterday. Melissa's finishing up our paperwork for today, and we're going to be scheduling the next round for next Wednesday as well. So a lot of questions that come about that we've experienced is when is it our turn? When can we get vaccinated? And so, as you know, we follow the guidelines through the governor's office and the Department of Public Health. Currently, we're now vaccinating individuals 65 and above. We're waiting on a definition to come out through the governor's office and the advisory council as far as who's considered to be frontline critical workforce. So again, we're waiting on that. My hope is that that group will be next. Timeline, it's looking at possibly March, but like everything else with this virus, things change rapidly. But again, we're continuing to monitor. The health district does participate in daily calls and weekly calls. So again, we get the most fluid information and pass it out as quickly as possible. But I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that anyone might have through you, Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you for that, Amy. I don't know if other members have questions.
This is Sherry, Mayor Chair. This is Mayor Smith. I just wanted to give an incredible thank you to everybody that really stepped up to help form the information line. It seems easy. It seems like it would be like, oh, this makes sense. But there is so much that goes on behind the scenes. And I want to thank you. The same thing with the ARCH system or program. It was, again, seems like it should be logical and very sort of seamless to do, but there are obstacles. And I just want to thank the team for doing this, and our residents are so much better off. This is the best of West Hartford, and it really makes us shine. And I just want to say a heartfelt thank you.
Yeah, amen to what Mary Tanner said. You know, I was going to go into that as well. It's been pretty amazing to watch everyone here work so seamlessly and put this together for the town. I just had a few questions on the mobile units that we were talking about. So, so the mobile units is mostly are we're distributing vaccines through a mobile unit? Is that right, or will do? Okay.
Yep. So what we do is there's certain requirements that we have to follow through the CDC and Moderna in order to vaccinate. And so with following those guidelines, and we met the approvals from the Department of Public Health. And at that point, once we met those approvals, we began the training. We started training our paramedics to vaccinate early on. The town of West Hartford and the health district were one of the first to do that. We were a pilot program for the Department of Public Health. So the reason we did that is because we knew we had a vision that we needed to meet the needs of our elderly residents, and that there are a majority of people that are unable to leave their home for whatever reason. So with that vision, we took this on the road. We met the approvals, and this vaccine, when it's transported, it's kept secure. It's in a padded container. It's under temperature requirements. We have a requirement such as a data logger that we have to keep with it that monitors the temperature of the vaccine at all times. And that does a printout for us, which we submit to the state when requested. So there is a lot of effort that goes behind this at-risk community health program team.
And just to be clear for online, so would someone would call the library and request to get on this, or they would call directly to you to do that?
Yep. So some of the calls that have come in have come to the library. We try to refer people, if they're able to fill out the form, which is on the town's website. And that form goes directly to Melissa Marquis, and she evaluates the form and works on the schedule with that. If someone is unable to fill out the form, we also take that information at the health district and again pass that along to Melissa.
That's fantastic. And then with the next phase opening up, have you or the library seen a significant increase in calls? Is there anything that the town needs to step up on its end in regards to capacity for you, and as we kind of have a wider net of folks that are going to be looking to become vaccinated or get vaccination?
May I answer that, Mr. Sweeney? This is Carol Waxman. We seem to be able to be handling the calls. They are running about 40 or so a day. They do take 10 to 15 minutes, but we have hired extra staff to come in also to man our regular reference desks while other people handle the phone line. So we feel that we're able to handle it now. And I'm thinking that perhaps the next age group that comes in, under 65, will probably have the ability to use the computer more so than having to call us. They might have an easier time navigating through the system to make appointments.
Well, thank you for that, Carol. Thank you. I haven't properly welcomed you onto the committee. We really appreciate you stepping up and all of the great work that you're doing at the library. We really do
Thank you,
appreciate
Mr.
it.
Sweeney. It's a pleasure for me to do it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilor Wainwright, do you have a question?
No, again, obviously, kudos to everybody. It's going great from what I can tell, and proud of everybody. So, thank you.
Councillor Sweeney, if I may add, the health district in the town of West Hartford are currently exploring the option of a regional site here in West Hartford. As I stated, currently the health district is running and staffing about four to five clinics a week. This would be a regional site. So again, we are exploring that. These would be, the town and health district would be making a request for regional assistance to staff these clinics. But again, we are exploring that option because we do want to open it up to more individuals. My clinics here at the Town Hall Auditorium have been great. There have been some limitations due to social distancing. As I've mentioned previously, people need to sit for a period of time, 15 to 30 minutes. They need to be socially distanced. So when we have a clinic here at the auditorium, we have roughly six vaccination stations. And then some of the chairs are pushed up against the window area where they can be monitored, and then they exit out back into the foyer area and either utilize the elevator to leave the auditorium or head down the stairs. So with this regional site, we're looking at increasing those numbers because of the size of this space.
And then I just have a question on that. This might be directed to both you, Amy, and Matt. When I know that I saw last week we did an advisory about some of this information going out. When the clinics are open, how are we alerting the public of that?
Yep, great question. So currently, our clinics, you have to be registered in VAMS. So when you are registered in VAMS, you put in your zip code and you're able to search for the radius up to 100 miles. Those clinic locations pop up. It'll say West Hartford Auditorium, Bloomfield Senior Center, Bishop's Corner Senior Center, and you can pick your time. And again, it will also indicate to you if the clinic is closed or open. We are not the only ones obviously listed. Hospitals are listed. The other surrounding towns, if they are vaccinating, are also listed. Our clinics do fill up fairly quickly. So what I try to do is give a little bit of a lag time because people are looking for second doses. And, we're trying to make sure that they can get that second dose in a timely fashion. And so I don't want them to fill up so quickly with our first dose clinics. So that's part of this monitoring that we do on a daily basis. But as of right now, our clinics are always full.
Thank you. And then one last question, then we can move on. Carol, in regards to the usage of VAMS, is that something that the library team is helping people with in regards to getting registered through there? I've heard that through watching some of the governor's bi-weekly press conferences, there's been some, obviously issues with age and using that system. Is that something that I assume that's something you guys are helping with?
Well, Mr. Sweeney, this is Carol Waxman. I'll let Helen take over from here, but I just wanted to mention that because there are sensitive issues regarding creating emails for people, that we are not able to do that. So we take as much information as we can, and then we move the call over to the people at the other end who will help with that.
So this is Helen Rubino-Turco. I can answer when the calls leave the library and are sent to our staff, our senior center staff. They do help them walk through the VAM system Sometimes they have to refer them to the health district, but what they'll do is they'll take that information down and then they'll email or call the health district. The health district is also seeing our spreadsheet at the same time they're checking it, so they can see, oh, this person needs this sort of help. And so Carol's correct. We're not at this time opening email addresses for people, or because of privacy issues, but also staffing issues. So we're confident that when the health district's new system is up and running, that will alleviate that part of our issue for our community. So I think Carol's right. We're getting every question that you could possibly imagine, but as I said, out of the 115 or so calls, there's a handful, less than 5, that haven't been resolved.
That's great. Unless anyone has any further questions, I'm going to move on to youth services update.
So thank you. We have Chris Dutton from the bridge to help address those questions that you might have and give us an update.
Hi, Chris.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's always nice to be able to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. So I'll just give a real brief update as to what we've been doing, and then if anybody has questions or concerns, I'll happy to field those. So as you may know, my name is Chris Dutton. I work for the Bridge Family Center and oversee our YSB related programming. So currently this year we are operating all of our sort of typical programs. However, they are slightly smaller and different as a result of the pandemic. So we're doing some virtual work and we're doing some in-person work, but it's in-person work's a little more intense and it's also a little smaller scale just due to space and numbers. So our mentoring program, we have 15 youth that are currently receiving mentoring services. All but I believe it's 2 are receiving in-person mentoring. Typically, we deliver those mentoring services in the school buildings. We aren't allowed into the district school buildings right now for their safety precautions. But we are, so what's happening is we're delivering those services after school hours. My team of mentors is going to students' houses, picking them up and bringing them somewhere to sort of have a recreational based mentoring session. So that decreases the number of kids that we can serve a little bit because it takes more time to get them and pick them up. So they're for each session they're with the kids for up to 2 hours. We've seen a lot of benefit from that in person versus the virtual. The kids get really tired being in front of a screen all day, as I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with.
Can I just ask a question? Is it,
sure.
So the Bridge has their mentoring program, and then the school district also has one too, but it's obviously I participated in it, but is that totally shut down? The school's mentoring program, just because it was all in school, from what I remember.
I don't know the status of the school district's mentoring program at this time, although I believe that they're probably doing it virtually.
Okay, that's good. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I just. Thank you.
That's fine. I don't actually have any direct interface with the West Hartford mentoring program. I just sometimes when we're assigning mentors, we talk about who would be a better fit, but I don't directly interface with them. I do believe that they are doing virtual work right now, though. Our other sort of flagship YSB program is the West Hartford Teen Center, which we operate sort of in collaboration with the Elmwood Community Center and use that space. In the fall, we attempted to do sort of outdoor teen center at Beachland Park. We did not have great participation in that. We had anywhere from 3 to 10 kids come on a fairly regular basis, but those were like our teen center diehards, the kids that are really connected to, particularly John Merritt, who's the teen center director and has a way of really bonding with kids. mid-November, we were able to, with some good teamwork with Jamie Krajewski at Elmwood, sort of resume programming there, obviously with limited numbers. So we have a limit of 25 total people, and that includes the 3 staff that are operating the teen center. But we have been full every single day of Elmwood Community Center teen center programming, except for the first day. So, John has a system. He updates the kids. We do a lot of pre-signing to come in to make sure that, that we were really worried, especially through the winter months, of having kids walk from wherever they walk from to come to the teen center in the cold and then be turned away because we were full. And so we do a lot of pre-registration. If somebody wants to walk in and we have space, they're able to come. But, so that's a little bit of a navigation that we had to figure out.
I get the social media posts to let me know when I can come over to the teen center.
There you go. I'm exactly. So, but that really helps. And so a lot of the kids that's how they're arranging it with John, is through that. We're thinking of coming up with some alternate way, but they get most of their updates from Instagram anyways. So we figured, let's not fix what's not broken. Also related to the teen center, we have our leadership council. They help to sort of direct programming along with John at the teen center. They have a real huge voice into how things go, but they're also participating in community service opportunities. So when we were at Beachland Park, some of those leadership group kids were part of that crew that was coming, and they noticed there was some litter along the back fence where we were spending a lot of time. And so they organized a day where, instead of doing regular programming, they brought trash bags and gloves and everything and helped to clean up. I think they took like 20 bags of trash out of there. It was pretty impressive. They worked really hard to clean out that little stretch between the neighborhood and the park. In January, they did a food drive. John's garage is filled with food that he's going to bring over to the food pantry soon. And dovetailing with the leadership is, so the bridge secured some additional, I believe they're federal dollars. I don't want to go into those details right now, but to provide some life skills training for kids. And we're piloting that with our leadership group. They seem to be really responding well to it. Currently, they're working on some future planning, thinking about post-graduation opportunities, not just college, but anything else that could be there. Also bundled up with that additional grant was some ability to support kids with driver's ed tuition support. And so John works with kids that he knows are seeking their license but may not have the greatest need, or means rather, and we can support up to 10 kids to basically get their driver's ed sort of paid for through the teen center. So that's a great thing. We've seen 4 kids right now so far take advantage of it. And we're working on trying to figure out how to get the rest of them connected. We also are continuing our work at the Hillcrest Outreach Center. Although Hillcrest is not formally open, we're continuing to do our groups with kids from that neighborhood. We just recently wrapped one up with some younger high school and older middle school kids. It was social, recreational, emotional support, and we're in the process of putting together a middle school group for that neighborhood right now as well.
How many kids are you guys getting in that Hillcrest?
We had 8 in this most recent group, and that's a little less than average. Usually we top out at 12. But again, because we don't have the space at the outreach center to use, we're doing field trip based groups. And so the team will put together a field trip, do the field trip, and then as part of the field trip, they'll build in some social component to sort of be a little bit more traditional group, to try to fill that need. Because with if you're familiar with the neighborhood outreach center at Hillcrest, it's very small and social distancing would be impossible. So, but for the middle school group that's coming up, what we are working to try to do is have kids, we're going to pick them up in the neighborhood and bring them to our clinic building, the new building that we have in Elmwood, and try to do a more traditional group there and see how that works. And then if that is more successful than the field trip based group, then that'll be the way we move forward. And if the field trip group turned out to be more successful, then that'll be the way we move forward for the rest of the year. And then the last thing I want to mention, it's not strictly YSB, but it's related. It's still my team. We work with the West Hartford schools to do our in-school psychotherapy counseling. Again, we can't go into the buildings, and so we're doing that telehealth. We have 35 students that we're seeing right now. And the only reason that I really bring that up as sort of a parting word is that kids are really resilient rather, but they're also really having a hard time with everything that's going on. You know, they're like sponges, they soak it all up. And the depth of the work that my team is doing this year versus the years past is significant. There's, you know, the kids, my school-based team typically doesn't do as deep of mental health work as they are now. You know, the kids are presenting with a lot more challenges, a lot more worries, a lot more fears. And the school staff, by extension, are doing a lot deeper work as well. And so the stuff that we pick up is big. And so we're really honored to be able to fill that role, both as the YSB and in the in-school piece. But I think it's important for this committee to just hear that, you know, the kids are having a hard time. Mm-hmm. And, you know, not for lack of support. There's a lot of support out there, but, you know, just like all of us, you know, we're facing a lot of different things. So,
I mean, based on that, like what, like, you know, thank you for, it sounds like you wrapped up. That's really helpful. I really appreciate. I mean, you guys are doing such amazing work. It's so important. I mean, remember when we first started these conversations in the kind of committees that we were created during the crisis, and you know, we were preparing for what was coming, and now, you know, we've heard obviously here, but I think everyone on here has probably listened or read or seen stuff that's going on with students. Whether it be domestic disputes, whether it be crime, whether it be mental health issues are spiking, and it's so important what you guys are doing, and we really appreciate it. I guess my question is: is there stuff that the town can do can we do more? And I also have another question: what are some of the main drivers of the issues with the kids, particularly the teenagers? And then lastly, how are students feeling with just their schoolwork, and are they feeling behind, particularly those kids that are that were juniors that are now seniors going into college? I couldn't imagine the anxiety that must be right now. But those are kind of my questions, because they haven't been in school for a year.
Right. So your first question was, can the town do more? I mean, being in the nonprofit and mental health world, my default answer is always yes, anybody can do more. With that said, I'd need to think about like a good answer. You know, if I was going to say, yeah, we could use support in this area, I'd need to think about that a little bit and talk with my team. But I'll temper that by saying, you know, Helen and her department, I think we have a really great relationship, and it's been really supportive, you know, and I think the biggest boon has been the flexibility on all sides to recognize that, like, yes, there's a lot of need, and yes, we're going to do the best we can to meet it, and we're going to figure out how to do that. And so I haven't felt like there's been any roadblocks. You know, again, in the mental health and nonprofit world, a lot of times it's like, what's the roadblock and how do we get over it? We've had nothing but support. But I do appreciate that question, and we'll think about it a little bit. And if we think of anything that would be helpful, we'll certainly reach out. In terms of the drivers, that question is complicated because I think it's individual, right? But I think anyone who is naturally predisposed to being anxious or feeling isolated or feeling depressed, that's exacerbated. Anybody who's not is experiencing that often for the first time, and that is sometimes even scarier, right? So somebody who's naturally anxious, they might have higher level of anxiety and they might need a little bit more support, but they're comfortable with anxiety and they know sort of what it feels like, and it's not as scary. I mean, it can be really scary to be anxious, but they're doing more of what they already know works, or they're leaning into their existing support systems. The kids that I'm most worried about are the kids that have never been nervous or anxious or have never been depressed, and they don't know how to get help or who to talk to, and they don't have that built-in support system. And those are the kids that I think the schools are starting to see so I said we had 35 in-school counseling kids. We didn't have huge numbers until November, December, because things were ramping up slowly, and the students aren't in the classrooms and things like that. But they're missing their friends, they're missing regular way of life, they're worried about the country, they're worried about their families, they're worried about the pandemic. They soak us up. Even the kids that pretend to not listen to a word adults say, they take that energy in. And so whatever the drivers are for you are the drivers for the kids. I see that manager has a question. I don't know that. Forgive me for not knowing exactly the etiquette to respond to that, but I'm open to whatever questions exist.
Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Thank you, Chris, for your report and the great work you and your team are doing. I was wondering if you had a sense of to what extent we have a digital divide here in town, and how that might be impacting the families you serve.
Yeah. I noticed that a lot more at the beginning of the pandemic. I think the schools in particular have done a really admirable job of connecting kids that needed new devices with devices. That being said, it's not just about devices, it's about savviness. One of my therapists early in the pandemic had to walk through a father to make an email address so that she could communicate. So she's seeing an elementary school student, and elementary school and middle school public school email addresses don't accept emails from external sources, which is great, but it makes it hard if that's how we communicate with the students. And so, with most families, we just email a parent the link to the, virtual session, thing like that. So for this particular family, like the father was like, I don't have an email address. I don't even know how to do that. And so she got on the phone and walked him through making an email address. They had internet and they had devices, but he didn't have an email address. So it seems challenging and hard to understand how that happens, but that is a thing that's out there, right? And so we think about it for, I heard the report about the elderly population, but it's not just them that don't know how to sort of navigate all of these systems that a lot of us probably just take for granted, right? I also know that there's been some good donations from families through schools to get to get kids new devices if they need them, things like that. And so, I don't know how thorough an answer that is, but it's out there, but it's not as pronounced here in town, I don't think. At least my experience is not that.
And sorry, Matt, this is Helen Rubino Turco. We've also discussed this question with our IT department, and they worked very closely with the Board of Ed to distribute those devices. And I would agree with Chris that it is not so much a digital divide, but a perception of a digital divide that exists in West Hartford based on what we're hearing for the school-based programs. We also have a program through the Senior Center to provide seniors with devices and training. And so this is something that our Senior Center Director, Gina Marino, is following and tracking as well to address that side of our community.
Yeah, and obviously those two are connected with my earlier question on the state's portal on signing up too. So, Matt, you had another question?
Just a quick follow-up. So thank you very much for that, Chris. That confirms some of what I've heard. It's not so much a broadband or a fiber issue, although we do have problems with wireless connectivity in certain parts of town that we're working on. It's more just a lot of it is the knowledge of the use of the technology itself and how to best provide and push that resource out, including to people whose English may not be their primary language, or they may not speak it.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, a piece of it. from our perspective, as well as being able to navigate all the different subpopulations and communities within town that may need a slightly different approach, and we may not necessarily be directly equipped to handle that. So.
And we shouldn't forget, this is Helen Rubino Turco, we shouldn't forget the role that the library plays in filling this need as well. And if need be, Carol can talk about the outreach that Pramod, she has an outreach director, as well as the appointments that they maintain at the library for use of their facility.
Thank you, Helen. This is Carol Waxman, Interim Library Director. Yes, Pramod Prahan is our Community Engagement Librarian, and he is out with every group that he can possibly be out with, telling them that, yes, they can come to the library. We are open. We have computers there for them to use and help for them to use the computers. So in that, and I'll give more in my report afterwards, but yes, we are aware of anybody not having a computer or needing help, and we are trying to address it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how much more time you have, so Jim, you had one, or Mr. Sweeney, you had one last question about students in school, and I'm happy to answer it, but I'm also recognizing that it's been a little while.
Yeah, I can follow up with you. I think Mayor Canner, you were trying to ask a question.
I was going to actually, I was going to do exactly the whole about the library and promote. So it was covered. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, as Mr. Dutton pointed to, we are, to be respectful of everyone's time, we'll move to staff reports from Helen.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you, Chris, for joining us.
And before you start, sorry, Chris, thank you for that. Really appreciate it. You know, you guys are really keeping the town together, particularly with the kids. It's so important. Particularly, I know it is for the members of this committee, but it is, you know, as has been spoken many times on here, the Teen Center is near and dear to my heart. So just keep doing what you're doing, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. We appreciate the broad support.
Thank you, Chris. Take care.
Thanks. Go ahead, Ellen. Sorry.
No problem. So I have three or four quick points, and then I'll turn it over to Carol for her report. One of the things we're doing is in conjunction with the West Hartford Prevention Council, is we are working on a community wellness assessment, and this kind of dovetails with some of the things we've been talking about. As you know, the West Hartford Prevention Council in 2019 was sort of revamped and recreated into the West Hartford Prevention Council. It had been the West Hartford Substance Abuse Prevention Commission. And we added the component of mental health into that organization's mission. And actually, we're ahead of the curve from other municipalities. And this is the direction now that the state is also asking municipal organizations to support. And this organization, this council dovetails as our local prevention council and receives money from DEMIS for some programming. And so they, in conjunction with discussions that I've been having with Matt Hart about, you know, are we meeting the needs of our community? I discussed with the chair of the Prevention Council, Carl Shields, about doing a community needs assessment. And we decided to call it a community wellness assessment to have it focus on the broader picture of wellness. And it is a program where he's working in conjunction with the health district. They have, they're utilizing 2 Masters of Public Health students to help them go through the wealth of data that is available now regarding mental health, substance abuse, and the social determinants that are co-occurring with those 2 issues. So although we're not going to necessarily address or tap into all of the community needs, this study that they're going to develop is concerning mental health, and that includes suicide prevention, loneliness, access to things like libraries, senior centers, community centers, parks, volunteer opportunities. So that's all kind of grouped in the mental health area. Substance abuse also is access to services. And then the social determinants, this is where we can talk about and investigate health equity, food insecurity, and those kinds of topics. So there is, as I said, an overwhelming amount of data available through a data portal that these students have access to. Again, they're going to cull the information that's only really going to address part of what our overall needs are. But they're going to establish what the assets or deficits that impact the access to treatment or prevention programs. And they're also going to create an asset map. Where are our resources and where do they cross-hatch with our low mod income neighborhoods that we know from Census Bureau and from the Community Development Block Grant information that we get from HUD. And so this overlay is going to really help us see in a physical map way of where the assets are and where the needs are. At the same time, we're going to be on a parallel track working on some of the other issues that may not be covered through this. For example, the senior population, special needs population, ALICE households, that is, the active, the households that are living paycheck to paycheck. And we know, for example, these asset limited, income constrained, employed people in West Hartford, in the state, it's about 27%. At the last time I checked, and in West Hartford, it's about 24%. So we really do want to look at that segment of our community as well. So I wanted you to be aware that this wellness assessment is going on. The players include Board of Ed, parents, and other members of the West Hartford Prevention Council. And we hope to have something to share with you in, let's see, it's February, April, June. So in June, we should be able to come back. If you have any questions specifically about this, we can create a separate meeting with Carl Shields to explain how it's going on, how it's progressing with the students. The three other things I wanted to share are the food pantry continues its food distribution outdoors at Town Hall. We're also partnering with Food Share on, we've assumed the management of a monthly food share distribution site at Bishop's Corner. The person that had been overseeing that retired, and so they were in need of leadership. Since our department already supports the volunteers that were working there, we took over the management of that and will continue to work with Food Share and exploring a second site in the Elmwood neighborhood or Elmwood region. As you know, on the leisure services side, Celebrate West Hartford has been canceled in June. However, we are planning an online craft show and possibly some other virtual or socially distant activities during that weekend. So just because Celebrate West Hartford is canceled, the celebration of West Hartford has not been canceled. We plan to dovetail some activities that would support the 10-minute walk, including a fund run to raise money for the Leisure Services Scholarship Fund, a bike ride, park-to-park walks, and that kind of thing. So stay tuned for more things to happen in early June to support Celebrate West Hartford, but not that gathering of people that we're still concerned about. Our outdoor pools, we do plan to contract with Health Fitness to run our outdoor pools. They did 2 pools this summer, and that was a really good experience. Now, they didn't take any revenue during that time because, they were only open for by appointment, and it was, so late, and we didn't get started until July. But they intend to help manage the outdoor pools, do the training and the staff schedule. So we do intend to open one pool perhaps a little bit earlier and keep another pool open a little bit later into the season, and be flexible with the hours. And so I think that we'll be very pleased with how that evolves, and I'll keep you posted. We are doing some capital projects, including continuing our work at Walcott Park, but also right now doing some work at Spicebush Swamp. The pond there is under process of doing some restoration, and we do anticipate that will be finished by April 1st. It may be finished sooner than that, but we'll have to come back in April and do some restoration of the around the pond edges, including planting native species of shrubs and flowers. And then that was my report, because the final thing was about the vaccination hotline. We've already covered it. If there's no questions, I'd like to turn it over to Carol.
Thank you. This is Carol Waxman, Interim Library Director. I want to wish...
I'm sorry, Carol.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Carol. This is Lee Gold, and I apologize for interrupting. Helen, I did have a question through Liam, with your permission, Liam, and I apologize for the interruption.
Go right ahead.
I appreciate your report. I appreciate everything that was said. It seems very exciting as to what's happening and where we're going. Previously, though, you did mention to the town council, and we had a topic on panhandling, and I didn't know if that was something that has, and you mentioned some things that the Leisure Services was planning to do, was in the process of doing. I didn't know if anything has come to light, how effective your plan has been, and maybe you could address some of those details, please.
Certainly. So we did launch a panhandling task force, if you will, working group in conjunction social services with the West Hartford Police Department, and they did some outreach to panhandlers. As you may recall, there are multiple reasons why people panhandle, but in many cases in West Hartford, it was not that they were homeless, but rather that they were, it was a way to make money, and that people were generous in West Hartford. And so what we tried to do was create some literature and information about how the public perhaps could address panhandling in our community. Since the weather has changed, of course, it is something that is a seasonal activity that we see a lot more in the warmer weather. So we do anticipate that it would there will be an uptick again, but it is something that we have statistics on. I don't have them at my fingertips, but I can certainly share them with Matt Hart, and he can distribute. But by and large, it was. We have a process, and we are continuing to do that outreach.
Has there been any other suggestions or options that can work in conjunction with that outreach program that you think might be effective?
Certainly. The main focus there is that it has to be a regional approach. And so we are working with our neighbors to develop a regional approach to panhandling. I know we've discussed some signage, but it's also a question of educating our community about how to approach the topic with, including, the children that might be in the car with you who are seeing it for the first time.
Is there an opportunity to bring in the private sector in terms of maybe a nonprofit organization that could be involved in providing an alternative for the panhandlers to potentially make money rather than ask for money?
Certainly. So one of the things that we have is a card with information about different resources that they can be connected to. But again, if someone refuses outreach, there's not a lot we can do. Like, we can't say you have to go do this, or you should go do this. But I think that by having social workers with our police force, meeting and talking with the individuals that we have that are coming from elsewhere, they're not West Hartford residents, is the approach we're taking at this time. And absolutely, we do rely on our non-governmental organizations that support this issue. But if they're not homeless, or they're not, needing drug addiction assistance, and they're just there to make money, and they're not from West Hartford, it's it is a challenge. But that's why we're dealing with this on a regional level.
Okay, thank you. We can talk more offline. I don't want to take up too much more time. Thank you, Liam. And Carol.
No problem. Thank you for the questions.
And Helen.
Carol, I think you were going.
Thank you, Carol Waxman, Interim Library Director. I want to assure everybody the 3 library buildings are open for business. Our hours are a bit more limited than previously, but we are welcoming people by appointment, but nobody is turned away if you do not have appointment. Our most robust service is our curbside service, where people put books on hold and pick them up on tables outside of the buildings. We are nearing 25,000 curbside appointments since we started the service on June 8th, which is exceptionally high. And we're very proud to be open because only 63% of the public libraries in Connecticut are open to the public for browsing or computers. And many of these have many libraries that remain closed, continue to remain closed, and will continue to remain closed for many months. We are investigating the purchase of smart lockers, which are similar to Amazon lockers or package concierge lockers, so that people can pick up their books outside of the library buildings in the evening, on weekends, on holidays, whenever the library buildings are closed. There's a pandemic-driven demand for contactless interaction. Many people simply do not want to enter any building, let alone the library, so they're very comfortable picking up items outside. And we hope to continue this service into the future. We've launched a library card campaign because there are always people in our town who don't have a library card. We created a series of videos that were funded by the West Hartford Library Foundation, the Thomas Kilfoyle request. And within a day, 50 library card applications arrived to be processed. Since the coronavirus outbreak in March 2020, the library staff have worked tirelessly to offer critical services to our community through virtual programming, curbside service, safe computer and browsing appointments, expanding our digital material collection, and of course, answering calls. They're still coming in, not about the vaccination because that's a separate line, but every day our call lines are manned and many, many questions are answered. We have, as far as our staff, we still have a library interim director, which is me. The recruitment will take place at a later time. We have just had a retirement for our adult services librarian, Agatha Monahan, and we have hired Andrew Pirro, who created the vaccination log, to step up to that position. We're very excited about that. We had another retirement in December of Joe Cadu, who is the program and publicity librarian. That position will remain unfilled for a while. Adults, teens, and children are being treated to programs virtually all the time. Adults are painting and hearing programs about travel, New England legends. Teens are playing chess and doing crafts. Children are invited to music classes. They're seeing live animals from the zoo and forest park. They're dancing and creating art projects and having just a great time. The people that come into our buildings are thrilled to be here. They're taking out books. In the children's department, unfortunately, our toys are put away, or as we tell the children, they're napping. So there is a bit of disappointment there, but we hope to be, hopefully by the fall, having children invited back into our buildings, putting the toys back, and being somewhat as normal as we can. May I take any questions?
No one has a question. I just want to say thank you for stepping up, and we really appreciate the work that you guys are doing. I think the library has been super innovative in this environment, and it's really great to see. And I know that so many people are benefiting from it. And as chairing this committee, it's been great to learn so much about all the stuff that you guys are doing, and really see the impact that you guys have on the community, and it's really great. Again, Carol, to have you here, and applaud your work and the coordination that you're doing with Helen's team and Matt is just really really superstar stuff. So we really appreciate it, and I don't know if anyone else has any questions, but thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney.
I did get to check out I got very excited to show up in person and get to browse for a half hour. That was nice. Everything went very smoothly. It was a great setup at the Noah Webster. Worked really well, and thanks. And like I said, it was very safe feeling.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. I appreciate that. And I'll extend those compliments to the staff.
Thank you.
I also just want to say, Carol, I'm at the clinic, so sorry, but double masked and noise behind me. But thank you so much. You're doing such a great job, and I'm so appreciative that you're in leadership, and the library is doing such a great job stepping up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Cantor. We appreciate that very much.
Well, if we don't have anything else, or are there any, I think the town manager, you have your update.
Thank you, Councilor Sweeney. Matt Hart, Town Manager. In the interest of time, I'll keep it very brief. And also there's a CCM meeting I need to get to. I want to thank the staff for their good work. Appreciate the council members' support. I think in terms of the future agenda, we can talk about our plans for spring and summer next time around. You know, we could also, if you wish, add the topic of panhandling to the agenda, and we could have a more robust discussion on that topic as well.
I think that we should definitely discuss what's coming in the spring, and you know, how we're continuing to engage our kids. I'd like to, you know, again, kind of do a little hybrid of what we did over the pandemic area, like around May or June, when we had some students come in. I think it would be helpful for the team to hear their perspective again. I know that was one of my favorite meetings that we did, so I think it's just super helpful for this committee to hear directly from students that are going through it, and maybe there's some ideas that we gather from that. I also just want to think about, you know, I think we're going to probably be in the same place we were last summer, to be honest, where in regards to what the town's protocols are going to be in regards to like leisure services. Because I don't think we're going to, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, but it doesn't feel like we're moving that much faster. And I think we should, you know, continue to be creative like you were last year, Helen, with outdoor events and in different ways to engage youth. Whether it's through the parks and you know, restart those programs again. I thought they were really great. We got a lot of compliments on them, and obviously we're gonna have to have a conversation about camps and all that sort of stuff again. Because I think, I don't know if you guys have a differing opinion, but I think that the similar protocols that we had in place last summer,
participant has left the meeting,
are probably going to apply this summer as well.
Yeah, we are planning to have camps as usual, but as usual has to have quotation marks around it, so smaller cohorts. And really what we're doing is having the programs in place, but being ready to change them or make them smaller as needed. So we're starting out with the premise that they will be smaller, but they could be bigger if things go well.
Yeah, and to the point that Chris was making, I think that we just need to figure out ways to keep the kids engaged over the summer. You know, last summer we were kind of building the plane as we fly. I think we have a little bit more under our belt this year to make sure that we're getting kids engaged in the best way that we can outside. I think everyone's been locked up, and I think the next couple of weeks are going to be really rough on everyone with all the snow that we're going to get. So just something to keep in mind for moving forward, though. I appreciate that, Matt. So with that, I will make a motion to adjourn. So, all right. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.